Hello and welcome to episode 113 of Kaiju Curry House, the fortnightly show that gives you a healthy dose of kaiju goodness every other Monday. Today, I'm joined by Joe to talk all about Q, the Winged Serpent. But before that, Joe, what have Kaiju been up to?
So Joe has been up to tons. Let me tell you, I've been looking at all the new merch online and deciding that I don't need to buy any of it. A lot of what I'm seeing from the regular folks that are normally manufacturing great stuff is just a lot of re-releases and different paint jobs. And I have to say, I'm getting a bit tired of it. I mean, it's great. It's great because in a sense, folks like me that have been forever, like we may have that or we may have already passed on it. But, that leaves it open for new fans to buy this stuff. But at the same time, when someone says, oh, we have a new release, and then you see a reissue, and it's just kind of
disappointing.
I feel like it's a small betrayal every time I see it. I don't know. But
do you think people are double dipping, or do you think it is for people who missed out first time around?
I'd like to think it's for folks that missed out first time. But regardless, reissuing, it's just, it's a cash grab every time in a sense from a business point of view, because you've already got the molds, the paint jobs, blah, 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 blah. You've got the art for everything. Let's just do it again. And in theory, you could even charge this because current inflation. So I don't know. It's just, I would like to see more original stuff. And a lot of the things that I am seeing that are coming out that are original and are great, I'm finding through places like Instagram, Twitter, sources such as like that, where it's just individual artists with a 3D printer and putting out neat stuff. But yeah, there we go. Other than that, I recently ordered the Legend of the Dinosaurs and Monster Birds on Blu-ray.
Of course you did.
Can't wait to see that in all of its Blu-ray glory. I mean, like, come on. Could it be any better? So yeah, there we go. That is what I have been up to. Paul, what have Kaiju been up to?
I haven't been up to an awful lot myself. I did get gifted some things. So I got a Godzilla vs. Kong t-shirt, which doesn't show up very well on the green screen because it's all green, but it's Kong swinging Godzilla by the tail, and it's at the bottom it says nothing like this ever on screen. So it's the original Godzilla vs. Kong. Obviously.
I thought you were going to take that like a different way. So Godzilla getting swung around by the tail by Kong is like, I swear that normally happened to me or something like that. That would have been like a really fun thing for Godzilla
comedy
to
version.
Say,
And then this t-shirt I got as well, another Godzilla one. It's quite unique, I think.
Ooh, the Aurora.
Because isn't this is the one that Connor has the model kit of, isn't it? Is it the Aurora model kit like Godzilla?
Yeah, it's the Aurora model kit art. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was looking, I was like, that's Godzilla, but it's not Godzilla. Where have I seen this before? And then it suddenly came to me, actually, that's that weird looking one.
It's very stylized art of
it is very stylized, yeah. It's different, but that's they were gifted to me and I just wanted to show them off. I thought they're pretty cool. Other than that, I'm watching Q. I haven't been up to an awful lot of kaiju stuff. So I'm glad we did the kaiju movie club, because that obviously encouraged us to pick and watch a film. The runners-up were both Monster Hunter and Cloverfield, but this got more than both of those films combined. So Q is definitely
that is because favorite. It is just Q is one of those great weird movies.
And I've always heard about Q. I'd never seen it until last week. I always thought it was an old film, like a black and white. I don't know, like 20s or 30s film. I just thought it was a really old film. And then when I watched it, I thought, oh, they've made a colorized version. And I was like, oh, actually, no, it was just made in the 80s. I don't know why I thought that.
Paul, it's just, no, it's like the second you see one of the cars, like you tell it's 80s. And what's great is it's New York in the 80s. And New York has like this, a great vibe going now because, oh, let's go visit New York, tourism, blah, 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 blah. New York in the 80s was
pretty dirty by the looks of it.
Rough, yeah. New York in the 80s was rough. And one of the things, I mean, who's going to go out and potentially doesn't have access to watch Q? I mean, it's on Amazon. go get it.
It's on
But
Prime. It's also available on YouTube.
oh, right.
So
Didn't know that. I bought my DVD ages ago. But in any case, what you'll see if you go looking for the trailer for this film is there is a woman who sunbathes. And for everybody who's seen this film, we know this is one of the prime movers and shakers for young people watching film. Not you, children, not you. We'll say adolescents may watch this film for some reasons, but yeah, the trailer that I remember had that shot twice, and I
that's
really
the audience
loved
they were
one of the
going
main
for.
selling features of this film was a topless sunbather being carried off by essentially a dragon in New York City. So yeah,
Yeah, that
that'll
says
stick
a
with
lot
me.
about the film. If that,
It
it's going to
does.
show a scene twice of a topless woman, that's what's going to get you into the cinema.
I mean, it is one of those things. But Larry Cohen, who wrote, directed, and produced this film, what he does well is supernatural cop films. If you look at his filmography, a lot of his backlog is just cops that come up across supernatural stuff. And if that tickles your fancy, if you're a fan of supernatural, you may very well enjoy Q. Although Q tries to take itself very seriously, does it not?
Oh yeah, it's a very serious. I mean, there's lots of plot points going on, but there's the rich, there's the murders going on, and there's that's tied to Q, obviously. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I'm trying to think of how it goes. We've got the police trying to investigate these ritualistic murders, and
Mm-hmm.
also a giant monster flying around New York City that no one's spotting, and also a kind of low life crook who's trying to just make some money in a quick, easy way, and it's not going his way. He just has lots of bad luck. But I didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, we'll just go straight into the film. Full spoilers for anyone that has not seen it.
Full spoilers for this film that came out in 1982. Yes.
1982. Wow. I mean, in the first 10 minutes of the film, I think we saw a man get decapitated, a woman bathing topless, and also someone who had all their skin professionally cut by the predator and was just left there.
Flayed. Yeah. They were
Flayed,
flayed.
yeah. That's the word they like to use, isn't it? Flayed. So yeah, it was. I'm guessing it's rated 18.
We hit the ground running. We start off. We should also probably mention that adults who are trying to indoctrinate adolescents and children into kaiju and monster films might not be the best one to start them out on. I mean, if you look at the box art or the poster art, which Paul you have behind you on green screen right
yeah,
now.
that's it's a bit different to the
real
it's life.
Amazing. Like we've got a pardon?
The image that you see on the poster is a little bit different to what we see in the film.
Yeah. So you want to explain that?
I kind of feel like they were going for like a snaky, serpenty thing, and then ended up with more like a bird beak thing. That's what mainly stands out to me. Like the eyes, the mouth. It's just everything else seems about right. I think the body, comparing the two.
Yeah. So the guy who actually painted that poster, his name is Tom, and I'm gonna get this wrong, Chantrell, and he did a really great job of it. But what we got for Q, and Q is short for Quetzalcoatl, by the way.
Oh, well done for pronouncing that.
Yeah, well, Quetzalcoatl is easier for me to pronounce because I've been pronouncing all my life. Basically, they're one of the largest flying reptiles ever to come out of the Mesozoic. Was named Quetzalcoatl after an Aztec god, and this god was a flying feathered serpent. Now, Q in the film doesn't look like this artwork. Yeah, it's kind of beaky, but it's a dragon. It's not a wyvern. Like we didn't get really a serpent sort of thing. We got something with limbs, and the wings that it has kind of end in like these raggedy, feathery looking protrusions, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. It's much less of a traditional dragon wing, more of a bird wing, isn't it?
Yeah, so in Dragonheart, if you got any of the Dragonheart action figures or look them up, Draco was going to have some feathery bits on his wings, and this serpent, kind of borrows off of that. And the design of the creature, I think it's very played down, but at the same time, it's like bare essentials. It looks great. So other times where I've seen that work really well. So we go to Pokemon occasionally on this podcast, but one of the more
Yeah.
popular Pokemon, one of the legendary Pokemon, if you will, its name is Lugia. And all that Lugia is a blue and white wyvern. And it's been slimmed down to almost minimalistic lines. And that worked for it. And then a lot of again, there are very simple designs, but when you slick it back, it works. Kong is another great example. Kong's a gorilla. It's just what you do with him, isn't it? So, Paul, what did they do with Q here?
What did they do with him? Well, in the film?
I think that we're being a bit presumptuous to assume it's a he, especially considering the end. But
there's an egg actually. Yeah, so it's a hermaphrodite. I don't know. It's a god. It might just
god, goddess.
Certainly, I mean,
we're leaning more towards feminine here though, because it lays eggs.
Because it lays the eggs. Okay, so she was summoned by these rituals, wasn't she?
Prayed into existence was a line that I really enjoyed from the film.
Prayed into existence. And I feel sorry for Q. I really do. I don't know if that's wrong or not, but I was rooting for Q. And I feel that she was mistreated in this film. And so was her poor egg. I didn't like the police after watching this film.
Yeah, it doesn't exactly help the perception of the American cop, does it?
No, that was very shoot first, ask questions later.
It is very shoot
There's
first.
An egg.
The only film that I think comes close to being as shoot first as this is Predator 2.
Right, okay.
Which is really saying something, because in that film, Danny Glover, he shoots a lot, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
So, yeah. So if we want to, with regards to this film, again, Paul said that there are multiple plot points running at the same time. And what you get is a film without a very long runtime, is it? So overall, it's I think film. That the film, it tops out, let me just bring it up here, tops out at 93 minutes. So it's an hour and a half long.
Yeah.
Which by today's film standards isn't as long as it could be. We've got films like Avatar now approaching 3 hours, for Christ's sake. Yeah. But I think now a lot of them, tend to top out close to 2 hours, somewhere around in there for a decent long film. So an hour and a half, and because it's so packed with so much stuff, it goes really quickly, and it doesn't necessarily flesh everything out as well as it could have. I think if we removed one thing, if we took one thing out of this film, and slowed it down a little bit and gave it more of a thriller feeling, I think that there'd be a bit more to it. But one of the most heavily criticized aspects of this film is just that it goes really fast, and the film itself is a mire of different things going on. And then it all comes together at the end, doesn't it?
That's it, yeah. So they don't necessarily need the whole Crook storyline.
The Crook is the first thing that I would take out.
You could get rid of all of that, couldn't you?
Storyline.
We could have the police trying to track down the ritualistic killer and the giant monster. That would be fine. We don't need 3 things going on. Just 2. Just focus on the 2 and do them better than trying to.
Yeah. So the Crook, in my mind, I love Godzilla 1984, Return of Godzilla. That is one of, if not my favorite Godzilla film. And in that film, there is just a bum that shows up in the third act of the film, and he's everywhere. And I don't need the bum. I don't need to be following him. And when he gets stepped on or whatever, and he doesn't appear again, I remember being quite happy with that as a child. I was just like, we don't need the bum. Why is the bum in here? Everything else is interesting enough. But it kind of feels that way with the crook. We don't need the crook.
No, but we see quite a lot of him. He's the main protagonist in this film, I would say.
I don't know why that came in, but hey ho, hey
It's not.
ho.
I don't mind the guy. Nothing against him. They could have his story, I guess. I don't think it would be as interesting. You could have him and forget about the. Actually, no, you can't really forget about. You couldn't just have him as a storyline, and that he knows where the nest is, because that would be a bit. It felt a bit more slapstick, his scenes, with him just
So
being a bit of a
one of
goof.
the things, like, we're taught like characters and whatnot, but I feel like we need to mention Michael Moriarty.
Okay, that's a great
So
name.
it's a great name. I mean, like, he sounds like he could be in a great detective film,
Yeah.
doesn't he? So he is Jimmy Quinn in this film. Okay. So what's great about him is, and this was like all over like the critical stuff in it was like, he is the crook in this film, but like when all of like the reviews and everything came out, he is like the one person who has like some acting chops. So the
Right.
first thing that we're saying is like, let's remove the crook. The crook is the guy that's like the star that they put in this film, because he's got Emmy Awards, Golden Globes, stuff like that, and he's got a lot of acting behind him, and he's a jazz musician in real life.
Yeah, I
So
found about that
dude's
afterwards.
awesome. Yeah, dude's awesome. But why is he in this movie? And I feel like, in a sense, Larry Cohen got him in this film. And like the reason it like focuses so much on him is because at the time he was one of those celebrities that people knew about or watched and say, "Oh, I've seen him.
Right.
Okay, he's in this film." And I think that that's how he managed to get in here.
Okay. So he was the star that they banked on to pull people into cinemas to see this
Yeah,
film.
but for us watching this now, or
Yeah. A
anybody
bit of a
watching it now,
loss.
yeah, we're at a loss. We don't really, it doesn't really mean anything to us. So that's one thing. So we talk about the production of this film. So Q is done with like some large props, an occasional large prop, eggs, for example. But it really, what's great is that Q is a stop motion character. And one of the great things that you notice in the film with Q is that she will change color a little bit depending upon where she's at. And that's due to the lighting that they were employing when they were doing the stop motion. So forgive me, I couldn't pull up the actual special or a special effects person for this in time to go ahead and do this podcast, but you can kind of tell like, obviously it's stop motion, but it's a great one to demonstrate how persons like Ray Harryhausen and Phil Tippett and those kinds of guys who like really went all out in this art form versus someone who does a good job but just gets hired. And I think Q is an example of the latter, where it could have gone further. It didn't necessarily have the budget, etc. And the budget for this film was $1 million, which wasn't anything to like bat an eye at
But
then.
how much was, I mean, in the 80s, was that
Yeah,
a decent
a
sized
million
budget?
was a bit, and I'm willing to bet that Mr. Moriarty probably was responsible for getting a fair amount of that. But again, it's one of those things where the box office tape, we're talking about 250 grand is how much it made back.
Oh, that's not good.
No. And it isn't exactly one of those cult classics either, is it?
I don't know. I mean, I thought it was a cult classic, but because
Well, I suppose it
people
hits a
seem to
lot of
know
like
it.
really obscure notes, doesn't it? Like, there aren't many supernatural cop dramas that focus on kaiju,
No, no, it's a very rare.
especially ones in the 80s. So, uh, actually, now that we're on the 80s and that, like, I feel like the soundtrack So I feel like we had a missed opportunity here because it is the 80s. I mean, like late 70s, 80s, where's the awesome music?
Yeah, it's lacking a bit there, isn't it?
Yeah. So I don't necessarily, like, again, this film has like a mishmash of things going on. And the way I could describe it to you, I suppose, is like a TV movie or a film that was intended to be a TV movie because it has that
Okay.
feel, doesn't it?
Yeah, probably would have worked better that way.
Well, I mean, as a theater experience, especially since, Jaws, first blockbuster, so to speak, came out in the mid 70s, like we've had, a little while to kind of figure out, like, okay, how do we draw crowds to the cinema? And I mean, we have, like the Hammer horror and stuff like that that's, like been around. But for this film, it was ambitious in a sense because we're talking about a giant monster in the heart of New York. We've got the supernatural cop thriller. We've got multiple, plot points. But again, because it feels a little bit rushed, it all comes together at the end. It isn't necessarily the best production value. Feels almost like I don't. It's not a Hallmark movie, but if there was a horror equivalent to a Hallmark movie, kind of feels that way. I'm not going to say that this is like Asylum, like
Oh no, it's not that level.
it's not that goofy. We'll call it goofy, but it takes itself very seriously, and at the end, you kind of come out going like, "That was different," but I don't have a hankering to see that again. I do
Yeah.
own it.
You, you bought it, so
Yeah,
you
yeah, I bought
must
it,
like
but I
it.
mean, like that's because like I'm an archivist for this sort of thing. Like I keep like whenever I find a film in this genre, I will buy the DVD because in the UK, do we get kaiju films like on streaming platforms? I mean, we're starting to now, but it's been years, hasn't it? So a lot of people in our fandom will tend to buy the hard copy just to have it.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Going back to it being in New York, I was looking because it's filmed in the Chrysler Building, isn't it? That's where the whole story is revolving
Yeah,
around. Which I mean, was it still under
because that's where Q
construction
lives,
at the time? Because it looks pretty rough where Q is nested. I'm trying to think. It doesn't look in the best state. This building. I always think of it as this
No,
amazing
so the Chrysler
thing.
building, actually this is a fun one for you.
Give me a fact.
So the Empire State Building, made famous in our circles by King Kong, it was actually going to be much shorter. And the Chrysler building was built next to it. Now the Chrysler building is iconic because that has that very Art Deco style
Yeah,
summit near the top of the building, with the beautiful curves and the shiny surface and all that. So that building was built shortly before, in the process of when the Empire State Building was being built. Now, the Empire State Building was going to have that top with the pinnacle at the top. Like Kong climbs up that pinnacle, and that's where he's hanging from at the end of the
yeah,
movie. So it wasn't originally going to have that, but because with its NIF top, the Chrysler Building was going to be something like, I don't know, 20 feet shorter or something like that, to use American Imperial. The folks at the Empire State Building is like, well, nobody's gonna be able to tell the difference. Who's the taller building? Ours is the Empire State Building. We are specifically making this to be the tallest building in the world. We're only gonna be like that much taller than the next closest one. No, not having that. So then they built that steeple, as it were, up at the top of the Empire State Building.
right.
So
Just
yeah,
so they're not outdone by the Chrysler Building.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So the Chrysler Building, it wasn't just built then. It would have been around for a few years.
It just didn't look particularly nice. Isn't that how it's portrayed in perhaps modern cinema?
Well, it's one of those things. I think New York in the 80s had like funding problems, and a lot of the city, as you can see in the film, was a bit neglected. It
Yeah.
was pretty polluted. So I think kind of like a revamp of the island kind of happened, and you had people going in and restoring and calling these buildings historically significant and just putting some love back into them. So that would have been a thing. But then also one of the things that you have to take into account in the United States, particularly New York, it's right next to the ocean. It's in a temperate environment. You're going to have very hard winters and very warm summers. And that kind of weather and climate is just unforgiving on any large structure. Any structure, full stop. Really.
Yeah. Well, they accepted, was it $18,000 to film in there? So they must have wanted the money.
Well, $18,000, if someone's going to offer to pay you something, name a price that sounds reasonable, and in theory you get it. So, yeah. So coming out of this film, who was your favorite character?
Do you know what? Thinking about it, it probably is the crook. It is Quinn. Because I didn't like the police. Because
the detective in of himself, the detectives were just very abrasive, isn't he?
They were really just not likable characters at all. They did come across as quite horrible. And the crook, although Quinn is obviously a bad guy, you just feel sorry for him because everything seems to keep going wrong for him.
Mm-hmm.
Although obviously he is a horrible person the way he treats his girlfriend. So I mean, there's that. But
that could be another reason I just don't like. I don't have such a fond feeling for this film because there's no real good antagonist or good protagonist.
There's no one I can really relate to or like.
We relate more to the monster that's eating people than we do to the characters in the film.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
That's it. I mean, Q's in the film for not very long. There's only snippets, isn't there, of stop motion that you'll see, probably a couple of minutes. But I like Q more than any other character in the film. So when her egg was shot to pieces by the police, where you think they'd want to study it, or someone would say, there's a brand new species or a fourth extinct species, maybe we should study it. No, they would just shoot the egg up. Just rubbed me the wrong way. Didn't like that.
So when we're looking at home media releases, it's really interesting to see this. So there was a VHS, as there would have.
Yeah, VHS.
And then we had a 2003 release, and then we had a 2013 release on Blu-ray.
Okay, so it's gone through the VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, probably no 4K yet.
Yeah, but it has the streaming. But I find that interesting that we've got two releases, one relatively recently. Of course, 2013 was kind of like a great time to be releasing kaiju films or, re-releasing them. So I guess that they kind of put the bandwagon there because it would have been Shout Factory that released it. And then there's a sub company under them, Scream. And that was how they put the Blu-ray out. But in terms of this film, again, wow, where would we rate this? So it's not it's not enjoyable shocks. I love Tammy and the T-Rex. I love Legend of the Dinosaurs and the Monster Birds. That stuff. I know what I'm going into, but this one, how would you rate it among the films that we've watched for this podcast?
Yeah, it's probably going to be reasonably low down on the list because there's not. As you said, it's rushed. It's a bit. The plots just don't necessarily mash that well together. The effects are fine. But there's no character we like. We wouldn't watch it again. Okay. Why?
Let's throw this out. So Gorgo moved along quite quickly. Yeah, we like Gorgo. Gorgo has some pretty unscrupulous main characters when you think about it. The kid's the only good one, isn't it? Or isn't he? So I mean, and then relatively economical special effects. So it's just when you try and put this somewhere or compare it to something,
it's quite unique.
We have Rodan. Well, yeah, I mean, we have Rodan, which is a flying monster, but Rodan went a different way. Rodan, kept it secret for a while, and it had a subplot with like the giant insects, the megalania, coming out of the mine works and the miners disappearing and stuff like that. And then it's like halfway through the film, they do the grand reveal of the giant flying reptile. So
Okay.
we had a lot going from the get-go in Q. Could that been pushed back? Could we have had more time to develop the directors, or not the directors, the detective? You know, I feel like that would have been a potential.
Yeah, I think you could have, if the characters of the cops were a lit, just yeah, if we could spend a bit more time with them, if they weren't just so abrasive, maybe that would work
Yeah, I mean,
better.
like if we'd sat with the cops for like 10 minutes, in the film, which is a significant amount of time for a film, if we'd sat with them and just watched them bust a case, like partner, like camaraderie or something like that. And then like these, and, it's like maybe they're like working like a small or relatively silly case. And then it comes to like people being flayed, like, whoa, what is this? And then, like stuff grows from there. Like that's the way that you can kind of take it. But like from the get go, we have like a really hard edged cop drama, and we don't have like a lot of that great character development for them. Like they're going around and they're asking the questions and everything, but it kind of just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't jive right for me. But I know that cop dramas from the 80s, they focused a lot on that. Just like you just dive right into these people's lives and then you watch them, unfold this mystery, or, like they crack the case, as it were.
Yeah, but as you said, that there's very little of us. It shoots from them asking questions to saying that there's never really a moment where they're just themselves. I guess we can actually get any sort of attachment to the characters. It's very much right. They're going to do this, then this, then this. Boom, done. There was
Yeah,
no
I mean,
development
like
for
we get
anyone apart from Quinn.
Jimmy Quinn.
Quinn got a load of
Yeah, we
screen
get
time.
Jimmy Quinn. The guy's diabolical when he's just normal Jimmy Quinn, though. So like,
Great. Yeah, so we've got a lot of screen time of someone who's horrible.
yeah. Ugh. This movie's a downer. I guess that's what we have to like categorize it as. Like, if is there a joke in here? Is there a funny moment?
I'm sure that, well, there is probably, but that's just Quinn being a bit goofy. I'm sure his characters did a few silly things. But it's like when there's the construction crew, and the guy's like, where's my lunchbox? Because he thinks someone stole his lunchbox, and then it actually is like someone's like there eating his sandwich. Going, oh, I really should tell him his wife makes the best sandwiches. As his corpse is being carried off by Q, and blood's dropping onto everyone down below, and everyone's just like, where's this blood come from? And then we don't really see the police investigating that in any way. It's just there's a scene. I don't.
Yeah, but
That
the
was
film's a
strange to me.
downer. It's a downer. Everybody like has an unhappy ending in this film, I think.
Yeah, I thought Quinn was going to have a happy ending. I thought, right, he's going to walk away a millionaire, but no,
No.
it just yeah.
So, I feel like we can just sum up this podcast episode now, really. Like, thank you so much for the lovely members who, entered
Listen,
in the
this was over. This won by a landslide.
I know. And you know what? Like, it is really unique in its genre, but it is a downer. Like, we've got nothing like happy to come from this film. I mean, it does have, spoilers again, a here we go again ending.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I mean, the shootout at the end from the Chrysler Building, where all the police are just hanging at the end of the building, firing machine guns at Q. It's like, poor Q. Just want to check if his baby's all right.
It's not even that. It's poor pedestrians down there. Like bullets come down eventually, So like, let's just say that the velocity, like of coming out of the muzzle stops it, right? Even at the height of the Chrysler building that you're aiming it at, like the amount of like damage from that firefight,
I
like
never thought of it like that.
Bullets would have eventually come back down somewhere. Oh, but yeah,
and that's just raining down bullets.
Thank you, everybody, for recommending this. I hadn't been like this like low when watching a film for a while.
I'm glad. I've always been curious about it because I've always just seen this cool looking poster art, and so I've always wanted to watch it, but never really bothered to. So I'm glad that it did get voted. So I finally had a reason. How much
poster art affects the sale,
Yeah, I mean,
we should also say that if you're looking for this, it's under 2 titles. There's Q, the Winged Serpent, and then what it originally came out as, where it's literally just the letter Q.
Okay, that'd be hard to Google search when it's just Q.
Well, yeah, like I think that could have been a reason why they modified the title or something. But if you search up Q horror film, it will come up. Okay. But yeah, that's one of the things that you have to go here.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. Yeah. Let's go to the listeners, the people who voted for this, and see what they say about the film.
Yeah, so folks who voted for this film, what's your favorite part? What do you think are like the great takeaways from this film?
Okay, well, I mean, on the comments below choosing it, Richard J. Murray said, Q is such an underrated classic movie. Needs more love too.
Oh, well, sorry, we just totally kiboshed that.
I mean, M. Bryant said, well, I tried. I really tried to watch this, but gave up at the 50-minute mark. Not even David Carradine was enough to keep my interest. The gory bits and the bad scatting did me in. Also, no subtitles. There's no subtitles. I didn't notice there's any no subtitles.
Some films don't have subtitles, but it's not cool when you don't have subtitles. There are people.
It can be annoying. Yeah. And Brandon, who he's given us a full review. So, Brandon, I remember being curious about this film since I saw the poster. See, it's the poster. It works. It is a great poster. To this day, I still like the artwork by Boris Vallejo. Is that right? Vallejo?
There are probably a couple different artists here, but
yeah, okay. He's named. I'll go with that. I just think that's how you pronounce it.
The UK quad poster, which is what you have behind you, the one that has the like lovely dark blacks and reds and whatnot. Or no, wait. There's the UK film poster with Tom Chantrell artwork and the US one sheet with Boris Vallejo.
Ah, okay. Vallejo, is that
so, yeah,
Vallejo.
Yeah.
Okay, he likes that. He likes Boris's artwork. It kind of looked like
artwork. Okay, I take it back. The Boris artwork is the one with the red and black background, and then the quad one takes Boris's Q, and they basically snip it and then put it on the skyline of New York City for the quad.
Right.
That's
okay.
What Tom did. Tom did the background, which is the skyscraper and everything.
Gotcha. Okay. Right. I'll carry on. It kind of looked like a dark and gritty style creature feature. By the way, I noticed that the monster is called, well, I can't pronounce it, Quetzalcoatl. And the director of the film is Larry Cohen. Not that I entirely believe the coincidences, but correct me if I'm wrong. Was that episode Bird of Paradise from Godzilla the series inspired by this film? I don't remember the episode, but we will have to watch that and see.
Well, we can answer that now. So through the wonders of the internet. So
well, you Google that. Series, yeah, you Google that, and I'll carry on reading. Anyway, for the movie itself, I'm kind of mixed about it. From the moment it was a cert 18 and in the horror genre, I had a gut feeling, no pun intended, that I was in for a bloody ride since the 80s was a golden decade for horror movies. To my surprise, it wasn't really that much of a horror movie, at least not for me, as I've seen other films from that particular decade that has more gross moments than this. I will admit that there were quite a few beheaded scenes here and there, as if the creature wanted to play a game of Sleepy Hollow. Also, a couple of skin scenes that were quite disturbing. As for the monster, Q doesn't really show up that often, and most of the story all hinges on the paranoid crook who wants to extort from the city a large amount of cash in exchange for directions to the nest. For me, that was a sort of loss, as I liked the Harryhausen effects style of Q from the trailer and was expecting the film to be similar to Jaws, but with wings instead of fins. I like that. Still, half of it was quite interesting, with some scenes that kind of got a chuckle out of me. Like one moment when Q swoops down on a guy and he does a somersault in the air like Crash Bandicoot. Also, the finale, where the paramilitary assault team take fire on Q around the Chrysler building, was quite a blast. Sort of like an opposite version of Kong's battle with the planes. Overall, it's not bad, but I mainly only enjoyed half of the film in entirety. 3 out of 5.
3 out of
3 out of 5.
5 is what a lot of give this film. And I looked it up. The Hanna-Barbera Godzilla actually predates this film.
Oh no, I think it's about the Godzilla the series is in the 98.
Godzilla the series is 98. Oh, right. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry. Is Bird of Paradise?
Don't know in that case. Bird of Paradise. Oh, no. So the Bird of Paradise one, because that was one of the first episodes, you do have a Quetzalcoatl in that.
Oh, you do?
Feathered raptor, serpent, and everything. But Quetzalcoatl, that myth has been around for centuries. And I think what inspired the Bird of Paradise episode wasn't necessarily Q the Winged Serpent so much as Rodan.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, there we go. Well, those are some interesting views. I myself would give this probably 2.5 stars out of 5. You know, like, can't give everything and nothing because they tried.
Yeah, they didn't mean to set out.
It's just grim.
Yeah.
Not grim in a sense that it's bad. It's just it's grim.
Yeah, it's not like watching, is it? I think we're quite often used to monster movies that perhaps have a bit more comic relief or just a bit lighter. There are, I mean, like The Host is pretty grim. You know,
yeah, it's grim. Like The Host is grim, but The Host.
But the characters, you know, you go with the family.
It has characters that are developed.
Yeah,
and you root for them. I guess that's a great distinction. The Host is grim, but they developed likable characters.
Yeah. Q doesn't have
the difference this film didn't have.
Oh, poor Q. They tried, and it's not a bad film by any means. Should
we leave it with nothing else?
Yeah, go on. Let's go with If Nothing Else.
If nothing else, I would say watch Q. Don't buy it, probably, and then scope out the trailer for the new Gamera series coming to Netflix.
Oh yes,
because that's going to be a good one.
We hope.
Paul, what you got?
I don't think I'll say watch Q. Maybe watch a trailer or some clips on YouTube rather than the actual film. But now we've made that comparison, I'll probably say go check out Rodan. Go watch if you want to watch a flying creature film. Watch Rodan. It's better.
Yeah, the original Rodan, fantastic film.
Yeah, go watch that.
There we go. Well, thanks, folks, as always, for listening. In the future, please suggest more lighthearted films for us. Actually, there we go. Suggest to us a lighthearted kaiju film. We will put a poll up, and we will watch that to counteract the grimness that was Q, the Winged Serpent.
I like that.
So, there we go. Thanks, folks. And as always, keep it kaiju.